I started off doing photography about 14 years ago when my first son was born. And I bought a camera especially to take photographs of him. But after a while I realized that I loved taking photographs so much that I went out doing landscapes, doing portraits of friends. And before I knew it, I was so in love with photography that I never went back to the thing I did before. I think the thing that draws me the most is like a single subject on a simple background and playing around with shapes, with forms, with figures. It's all about finding a balance between structures, textures, shapes, figures, emotions, character. And I think that's something that I really tried to evolve in the years that came after. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about my work is that a lot of people think that I shoot analog while I shoot everything digitally. I didn't have a background in analog photography. Also, I didn't have any education, so I learned everything myself. And what I did is like sitting behind the computer and try to discover the new digital darkroom that is called Photoshop. So I shoot everything digitally, and then in my darkroom sessions on the computer, I turn them in something that resembles and is inspired by analog photography, because eventually for me that's where it all started. It started off with Irving Penn, and it started off with Richard Avedon and Man Ray and Bill Brandt and all these icons of the past. And that's why I fell in love with photography. I thought they had this super creative, dynamic vibe, and they changed the world of fashion photography, and they changed the world of photography itself. And there's always this dynamic feeling in their work, which I was really drawn to. I realized there's a fine line in my work between fashion and art. And I think that's why I've been asked to work for renowned international fashion magazines as well. Working with big professional teams and getting the opportunity to meet people in that way, I think really elevates my work and sometimes takes it up into this next level. Having an artistic block is a very difficult thing. I've run into it a couple of times, and it's super hard because it's almost like having a depression, I can assume. I mean, I've never been depressed in my life, but I can imagine that this is how it could feel. Because you, if you wake up and you know that you're going to make something beautiful, then that's the life you want as an artist. But if you miss that moment, if you miss that feeling, and you come into the studio and you don't know what to do, it's the most terrible thing that could happen to you. And looking too much for an answer doesn't help at all. So what I usually do is just disconnect a bit, step back a bit, try to enjoy life, not be sad about it, and just try to enjoy other forms of art as well. And it really helps to discover what you feel about art and what you think about other forms of art. And I think this is one of the ways that you can, but maybe everybody's different, that you can get rid of an artist block like this. My most personally meaningful photograph, I think I have two. One of them is Carlos, and it all started for me with Carlos. It's one of these images that was a result of this experimental phase when I started doing photography, where everything comes together for me. What I love in photography, it has the dynamic, it's mysterious, it has a very nice grain, it has a sharp contrast. I think this is probably why it's one of the most published photographs that I made. And next to that is one of the images that I shot in 2020, and it's called The Rhythm, and it became the cover of my book, and eventually the title of my book came from the work. So it was shot with Tino Dinotenda Mushore. I think my most well-known images are shot with Dinotenda. And we promised each other to keep working with each other every year. Sometimes it's 1 shoot a year, sometimes it's 2 shoots a year. And this collaboration is so special because I don't have to tell her anything and she doesn't have to tell me anything. And it just flows so natural. And she knows what I'm doing and she understands my art. And I think that's so important. So the second image would be rhythm. One of the most transformative experiences in my life being an artist, I think it was my travel to Morocco. I always feel at ease and safe in my studio, and that's where I make most of my work. But I love traveling. I'm really obsessed with traveling, and the project I did in Morocco, it was the first time where I just went out with a friend and we rented a car. We drove through all Morocco and we started photographing. Started photographing on the street, taking landscapes and combining the two and still lifes. And I think these 3 pillars are so important to my work that was like the first time where I realized, okay, I have to do a project like this once in a while, once every so many years. And that was the first experience after I did a project in Mukono, Uganda. And recently, 2019, I went to Nepal for a month to do a big expedition there. And I did the same. So I feel like this is becoming more and more part of my work, besides being the studio photographer. When traveling Morocco, I discovered that I'm not only a portrait photographer. For me, I'm a photographer. I'm an artist using photography as a medium at this moment. And I don't like when people put you in a box, you know, saying you are a portrait photographer. No, I think if you're passionate about photography, then it doesn't matter what your subject is. And during this travel in Morocco, I think I found out that I really loved doing landscape photography as well, and still life. And I mean, still life isn't the biggest part of the work that you see in my books. But it's still something that I really think I need to do. And I think one of the key things is if you think that you need to do it, then you just need to do it. And don't listen to other people saying what to do.